the response to the affirmative action thing has been the most racist thing I've ever seen.
Oh no, they're taking away our slaves again.
Kind of. The left-wing position is unironically racism today, racism tomorrow, racism forever.
Yeah, I know.
I expected them, I don't know why naively I expected this, that they would at least for the affirmative action thing kind of just take it on the nose and scuttle away.
Yeah.
Because, come on, there's no winning this. It's ridiculous.
I mean, they literally have us banged to rights as being a bunch of racists.
Yeah. And we'll start by promoting something on Lotus.com before we get into the response, which is just comedy gold, which is the Critical Race Theory Explained series, which, I mean...
yes.
You went through the Bible and explained it. So
yeah,
people should go check them out. Some of them are free, some of them are premium.
Yes.
So I have to watch the premium ones. But it's explaining as to why the modern left is what it is, which is what we're about to look at. Because, I mean, the modern left thinks this is what just happened. As you can see, congratulations to white supremacy for winning a huge victory today. So some leftists, artist interpretation of what this man assumes is going on. Why
white supremacy needs the voice of a black man to achieve its goals is a different question.
And of course, the reality is literally the exact opposite.
Obviously.
Every time. I mean, people will put in this and retweeting it a lot. This is a tweet from what is believed to be a bot account. Okay, not real. But this person tweeted out, today's Supreme Court decision...
No, this is a bot account.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry.
So they tweeted out, today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on black people. No black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty.
Now, again, I think it's important to remember that this is I assume it's a right-wing bot that is designed to mischaracterize and caricature the left. There's no way that anyone stands on this position, is there?
See, it's weird. It does for some reason. Turns out the left have gone mad. No, they haven't. They brought into critical race theory.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like the right's like, hey, we're going to try and caricature your position. And the left's like, no, you're not. Because we own that. It's like, wow, okay.
Double down, idiots.
Yeah, checkmate right-wingers.
I mean, I saw this on Reddit, for example. White people Twitter Reddit. So the responses are all leftists.
Yeah.
And their responses were, I'll just take some quotes, proud Democrat. That's such a Republican trying to play a Democrat thing to say. It's always about pride with those people.
What?
Yeah, I don't
average Republican pride parade.
Anyway, Pride Month. But,
yeah.
The next person said, liberals don't actually fit the stereotype the conservatives have created for them, so they have to make them up.
What? That's why that Erica Marsh hoax was so convincing, because you do exactly fit all of the stereotypes.
We'll see how well that take ages in the following minutes. Someone else went with Russian disinformation, question mark, and got loads of upvotes because it's Reddit. Cancer.
Of course it is.
So that's what they did. But I want to real quick remind people, when you've had affirmative action all your life, equality seems like oppression.
Oof.
It does. Certainly does.
Oof.
A tragedy for us all, she said, because this is oppression for them, because finally they have equality. Now, I'm never not going to be happy that she had to sit on this court and have to deal with that. As you can see the Babylon Bee saying here, awkward. Supreme Court rules against affirmative action with affirmative action hire, sitting right there. Very sad. Very sad.
My presence in this court has just been ruled illegal.
And this sort of satire was what, of course, that bot account was presumably trying to get at.
Yeah.
But of course, as the leftists failed on Reddit to realize, you live the satire, you people.
Yes.
And we can have it in real time. I mean, Al Sharpton came out and said that equality is sticking a dagger in our back.
Oh no, I'm going to weep for Al Sharpton.
He says here, this is a tremendous setback that must be resisted in every corner, including the Department of Justice. I'm going to use the Justice Department.
I mean, literally,
to rig the system.
If we can't be racist,
yeah,
then this is a dagger in our back.
How will the black community survive? Says Al Sharpton.
What? How will the black community survive if we're not racially preferenced?
Then the media got involved.
Oh yeah,
and made it even worse.
Oh yeah.
So this is on MSNBC.
Oh yeah,
had a chap on here.
I know I'm going to get some great takes now.
Quote, I fear what will happen. Will there be many lawyers who look like Charles and I in the future? Or doctors or accountants? It is a problem. It is not preferential treatment.
Our preferential treatment's been taken away.
I'm sorry, but you literally just sat on national TV and said, without affirmative action, there will be no black lawyers, doctors, or accountants. It's actually what you did. And you did it on a leftist outlet because you're a leftist. Now, bot account from earlier that said that blacks won't be able to succeed in life without affirmative action And the leftists were all sitting there being like, well, this is clearly, we would never say. You're a propaganda outlet.
I mean, I don't want to be like the left are real racist, but it just really is palpable. They can't be any other way.
The left are black nationalists.
Yeah.
I think is the statement you should probably use.
Yeah.
Instead of because we always hated that anyway, for other reasons. But it is just ridiculous how in every possible instances they'll be like, no, blacks community in the United States need every privilege you can give them.
Why does that guy look like Frankenstein's monster? It looks like he's had half his head stitched back on.
I don't know. Maybe he has a hairline that goes much lower and he's decided to recede it.
No idea.
Or he's just got a hell of a wrinkle in the middle of his head. But anyway, there's another quote from them here on MSNBC where they said, what you're doing is you're limiting people's access to the American dream. Because black Americans can never achieve anything without being lifted up. He says, and that is something that we are not really being honest about in our discussion.
Man.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it really is the most racist response possible.
Yeah.
They actually did sit on national TV and sort of sit around. A bunch of black people, incidentally, if people listening, are sitting around going, well, of course, blacks can't succeed without help.
I don't want to say certain things that they're saying because I would be called a racist and be deplatformed. But they can say it.
For some reason. He ends that statement off with, now we are going to see that segregation is becoming wider and wider because we have an equal playing field and blacks literally can't compete unless they have the system rigged for them.
That's not my opinion.
Black lawyer.
That's their opinion.
Yeah, this is MSNBC speaking, YouTube, not me. In case you were thinking about banning.
Yeah, dear YouTube, we disagree with this.
Dear YouTube, I'm not a leftist. Please leave me alone. Quote, another person comes in and says, we will return to elite institutions now.
That was the point of them.
Yeah, although he's saying that because he believes that black people won't be allowed in. They will become elite institutions, more specifically, being a space of particular population, predominantly white and Asian students. An MSNBC guest who came on and said that. Now, the bot from earlier, not that bad, by comparison is all I'm saying. The last headline from MSNBC, well, this is something they read out, in fact, on TV. The headline for today is Access and Opportunity Denied.
I mean, they're literally telling black people they can't go to university.
The propaganda outlet of the left in the United States spent the day, in response to that court ruling, addressing the black population and saying, you are nothing, you are worthless, you will never be a doctor, accountant, or a lawyer, don't even try, because now the system's not rigged in your favor, you are completely incapable. That was their media response.
That is genuinely awful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sincere when I say this is the most ridiculous and racist response possible.
It's just horrible.
And they actually did it. I mean, this is real. I mean, God bless Tom Elliott, because he sincerely has to sit and watch all of this crap. And because I'm not going to watch all of MSNBC's.
I mean, it literally is to deny African Americans opportunity.
Yeah.
No one's stopping you from getting grades.
Turns out, not apartheid. You can do what you want. It's always been allowed. But not on MSNBC. Not allowed. The last one here from them, which they said, is it just going to be open doors to discrimination against black people now? Against people with disabilities?
No, it's going to be no discrimination.
No, but the choice of words.
Yeah.
Every time. Do you not remember a while back when we were talking about the Supreme Court ruling on women's rights? And they started going, well, what about disableds and women? They just kept bringing up disableds after the word woman. And after this one, they just keep bringing up the word disabled after talking about black people.
Yeah, but you got to remember, they do view them as essentially in the same category.
They do indeed. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not being hyperbolic when I tell you this was the response.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, good Lord. That's certainly something. Anyway.
It's like when the British government's like, well, look, you can't discriminate based on race, based on sex, based on disability. As if all of these things are just the same.
All the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, the British government went even further than that. They said that you couldn't discriminate against white people. You couldn't discriminate against men. So women, disableds, and browns were all the same category.
Yeah.
In the materials they gave to the officers.
Yeah.
Yep, this is very legit. Joy Reid came out and told everyone she was...
but Joy Reid had a great take.
She was a diversity hire.
What a surprise.
That's not really a take, Rick. That's more of an admission of failure.
Yeah, well, that's no surprise whatsoever.
No, she just came out and was like, I'm useless. she told a story on her show.
Chris Hayes has got to pretend to take her seriously.
It's kind of embarrassing. She told a story about this. But before I get to it, the guy in her story who flew out to find her, to bring her to Harvard. He is pictured here, at least in my mind. People listening, it's Cartman talking about buying up some student athletes. And I suppose we'll play the video and you can enjoy Joy Reid's telling of how she was brought into the fold.
But someone came to Denver, Colorado to look for me. A Harvard recruiter flew to Denver, and I met up with her at the Village Inn restaurant and did a pre-interview to get to pull me into Harvard. I was pulled in, and the schools like Harvard and Yale that I got into affirmatively. Yes. And it was literally not saying we're going to take an unqualified person and put them in Harvard. Yes. We're going to take a very qualified person who we would never know existed and put them in Harvard. That's how I got there. That's how Ketanji got there. That's how Justice Jackson, I should say. Justice Jackson got there. It's how Clarence Thomas got there. Right. But the minute I arrived from my majority black little town, Montbello in Denver, to Harvard, the first week or two that I was in class, my presence was questioned by white people. I was in this big conference class where some white students stood up and said, those students, the black students, they're only here because of affirmative action. It became a huge argument that we all ended up having. This was freshman year. I had never had my academic credentials questioned. I had never had anyone question whether I was intelligent until I got to Harvard.
Surely if you're going to be questioned on your intelligence, Harvard is the place for it.
But also I love how she's like, well, I was a diversity hire, and then they started calling me one. Yeah, I mean, if you weren't a diversity hire, that wouldn't have happened. So what do you want? And I'm sorry, but you haven't actually thought through your criticism at all. Mm-hmm. She's just sitting there being like, well, I am literally here because I'm black and a woman. I mean, so much so that they flew someone out to her little town. Are you thinking of the expense for one applicant?
I mean, that's a lot of affirmative action.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of it. There's a reason I brought that Cartman picture up is because he turns up and says to the admissions officer there, I'll give you $10 for the whites and $50 for the blacks. I mean, how much did they spend on getting Joy Reid to come to university because they wanted another black woman compared to any other applicant?
It's just mad, though, isn't it?
And then she has the gall to sit there and be mad about it.
But I'm just sat there thinking, I can't imagine a world in which something like that would happen to someone like me, right? It's just incredible.
Can you imagine the British government going out their way to make sure the social housing in London isn't given to Africans, but instead is given to, I don't know, someone from the north who might need, that kind of access to London.
Someone from the government comes up to you and says, Callum Darrow, we'd like you to come to this university. It's like, well, we'll pay for you and stuff. It's like, well, why? Why would you do that?
I've come all this way.
Yeah.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
someone turned up Joy. You're a black Joy.
Yeah, exactly.
Come with us.
Just such a weird thing.
Maxine Waters' response was also pretty ridiculous.
I'm just thinking of the sort of level of privilege someone has to enjoy in society to have that kind of treatment from the state. It's just so remote from my experience of the world.
Yeah.
Just anyway.
Maxine Waters decided to, most of it's just posting about how she hates rich people.
It took the coping and seething of Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, which I'm just going to ignore because it's childish.
Oh, I like it.
But she did do another racism. She puts in there that Clarence Thomas has just blown against all children of color being able to get an education.
Clarence Thomas doesn't want his grandkids being educated.
Again, if we can't rig the system for you, you literally can't be educated, says Maxine Waters, a black woman. Michelle Obama also did a racism.
Oh, yeah.
She decided to come out with a big, long speech proving how she belonged. Even though she wasn't smart enough to go to university, according to herself, she got a diversity hiring situation.
Really?
But she belonged, even though she, by definition, didn't belong.
I guess she doesn't know what a university's for.
Yeah, but there's a quote in here. Today, my heart breaks for any young person out there who is wondering what their future holds and what kinds of chances will be open to them. Literally nothing.
And that's literally every young person.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like the same rhetoric. If you are black, the opinion of most black public figures is to feed you the message that, well, you're ruined. Nothing you can do.
It's so weird as well because, again, just there were always black people in public life in the 80s and 90s.
It's like the system's back to being the same. And if you do better than the white guy, you'll get the position. Why is that scary to you? Exactly.
There was never a time in my life when there was never a black person on TV,
Really? They weren't all kept in cages?
No. Shockingly, they weren't. Very,
Weird.
very liberal in the 90s, actually.
Anyway, it turns out she was tweeting that from a private yacht on a private Greek island.
Jesus Christ.
In case you're wondering, she's tweeting about oppression from a private yacht with her ex-president husband on a private party on a Greek island. I mean, it's just... Again, I'm sorry, but the people telling you will amount to nothing because you're black are the most privileged, rich people in the United States. I mean, there's this actual clown world.
Clarence Thomas being the one black guy who's like standing in the way with the glowing eyes like, no.
But it wasn't the best. The best came from MSNBC's Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, I can't get over how they decided to go full racism for the day. They went with, if John Roberts and Clarence Thomas believed that no further action was needed to undo damage of 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow, then they can just as easily justify rolling back protections for women, the disabled, and others.
I'm listening, MSNBC.
But I love it. It's just the 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow that women have lived under. And disabled.
Oh, no, they think that. They really think that.
Yeah.
You know, so,
sincerely.
Yeah, they sincerely think that for thousands of years, women have just been under the heel of the evil man.
They would come home and the man would force his pay package upon them and they would be forced to engage in household spending.
I mean, just they'd be forced to help till the fields so they could all eat the next day. You know, like...
Disgusting. How could they do this? But anyway, there's some riddles that came out of this, which were pretty funny. Let's see if we can solve the following riddle from a nice chap here. He says, 34% of Harvard students are white. 43% of those students are from either legacies, children of faculty, kin of donors, or recruited athletes. 75% of them would not have even gotten in if it was not for their special status. But when in doubt, blame black people. Can you solve the riddle, Carl? Only 34% of Harvard students are white in a country that is not 34% white, but 70-something. So what's really happening there, Mr. Hill, is not that black people are, I don't know, being hurt. No, what's happening is poor whites can't get a place at Harvard. Yes. All the positions that are left for white students are exclusively taken up by the elite because they've got those
not even exclusively, 43%. So that makes it about like 16% a legacy.
But there should be a much wider pool of white students you could accept. And of that pool, you would have, well, the admissions would be freer to be able to add people who are first-generation university graduates or etc. And instead, they can't. But instead, just cut themselves up in the race narrative. But anyway, what's the effect of all this news? Well, good news. A bunch of diversity hires are being laid off literally the day after. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but I like it.
I think it probably is a coincidence because the various media companies are realizing, wait a minute, these people are ruining us.
Yeah. I mean, so Warner Bros., they fired their one. Disney got rid of theirs. Film Academy, they got rid of their VP.
Bonfire of the diversity hires.
But the last thing I want to mention in here, which is, it wasn't just them. There's actually a side note, which no one seems to be talking about for some reason, but I'm going to mention it. There was this article talking about Jewish enrollment also massively going down in the previous couple of decades. In fact, they say in here that Jews now make up 9.9% of Harvard's undergraduate enrollment and 12.2% in Yale. And it used to be 24% of Harvard and Yale were Jewish in the 2000s, and now it's gone down to 10%. So in fact, they were being utterly crushed by diversity hiring as well, because
just
we had
like
to get
everyone
them
else
in line. Because I think it's Jews are about 1-2% of the United States population. So they're massively overrepresented and had to be destroyed according to leftist ideology.
Yep.
Now, my position is I don't care. I want someone who's good. I don't care how Jewish my doctor is.
I just want them to be able to perform the open heart surgery I'm going to inevitably need.
Will Mr. Goldberg save my life?
Yeah.
That's all good. I don't really give a damn. But instead, I just found it weird that no one seemed to bring that point up, and I'm kind of disappointed that the Jewish lobby didn't jump more behind this case, because it was almost exclusively focused on Asians and whites, and it could have used that support as well, but maybe they just aren't keeping up to date with it. But as I mentioned, I'm just so glad that Thomas Sowell got to see all this. Although I'm not particularly glad he got to see the racism that came out of it. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on Investing Part 3 with Peter Lowry. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.